I get the privilege of being the one on the stage to welcome you and to say, this is our gathering, but it belongs to a whole bunch of people. And I'm going to read out in no particular order. Your co-hosts for this meeting is Faith to Action Network, ACT Alliance, ACT Church of Sweden, Mohammedia, Religions for Peace, South Africa, Mensen met een Missie, the World YWCA, World Faiths Development Dialogue, and the Network of Religious and Traditional Peacemakers. Did I leave anybody out? That would be a faux pas. Who? Oh, and ACT Ubumbano. I think that they deserve a round of applause for putting this together. Before we proceed, I'm going to ask us, we've received, there's been some bad news. We've been informed of the passing of Dr. Douglas Huber, who is one of the founding board members of the Faith to Action Network. And I believe he'll be laid to rest this weekend. Faith to Action would like to encourage everyone to sign a condolence book, which will be outside in the foyer, and that will be handed over to his family. Somebody will be going to the funeral from here. Can I ask that we, as a mark of respect, if we can rise and give a short moment's silence in remembrance of this giant of a person. Thank you very much. We're convening this convention in a time of great uncertainty and great difficulty in the world. Our TV screens are filled with images of conflict, of genocide, of violence, of exclusion. It's a world that is characterized by inequality and environmental destruction. And we're gathering here, I'm hoping, as faith change makers who are committed to being symbols of hope in a world that is so desperately sad at the moment. And you can look at the theme where we say we are affirming human dignity, justice and freedom for all. We've got 3 days in which we need to explore how we as faith actors can be that beacon of hope for so many communities who face despair and who face exclusion. It's not always easy to engage in difficult conversations. The faith community very often is full of contradictions, right? In all of our faiths, there are people with widely divergent views. We see religion being used to justify all sorts of horrors and all sorts of evils. And even within our own local communities of faith, there are those battles that we have to fight, where we have the views that are anti-inclusion, anti-human, and are justified by people using scriptures. And so we engage these 3 days. We encourage you to be brave, to engage with courage, to be honest, and to not be afraid of engaging with difficult topics. Right? It's a decision you make to open yourself up to a more honest and rigorous discussion. and to resist the innately human urge to retreat to our defensive positions where we are safe. So that's my urge to you. And we hope that we can do that in as productive and respectful a way as possible. And to that end, the wonderful planning committee made up of all these many co-hosting organizations have developed a code of conduct, which will be available. I think it is available. It has been printed, if I'm not mistaken. So please take a look at it. It's not very long. This is it. And if we look at this, it will help us have a conversation that is challenging and progressive, right? And I want to just highlight a couple of things. The first one we talk about, we create a safe and welcoming environment for everybody in this space, regardless of your ethnicity, your religion, your nationality, your age, your gender identity, your disability, your sexual orientation, or your socioeconomic status. The inherent dignity of the human being is a non-negotiable. We will speak to each other with respect for the innate God-given human dignity that each of us enjoys. Can we commit to that? You're going to come across somebody who's going to annoy the hell out of you. You want to argue to the death, but we'll do it with respect for the innate dignity that each one of us possesses by virtue of being a creature of God. Okay? We'll be respectful of other people. We will take care of ourselves, and we will commit to be present when we are here. I'm happy to see that there's only a handful, and I'm not trying to out people, only a handful of laptops open. You know, that's the new thing. You go into a conference and you open your laptop and you answer emails. All right? We want to be present. And I'm not knocking the guys with open laptops, but I'm just saying, let's be present. All right? And those who are writing notes, there you go. There you go. We will not discriminate or harass others. And I think that's important. We make assumptions that because we are in a progressive space where we are affirming human dignity, we make assumptions that bad behavior doesn't happen. We are different cultures. Sometimes it is a cultural misunderstanding. But please, we urge that there is no behavior that includes harassing other people with unwanted or unwelcome behavior. No threatening, no intimidation, no bullying. And for us men, no outdated patriarchal attitudes. Right? Can we commit to that? Yeah? So, but you know, things happen. And sometimes you don't feel safe, you don't feel particularly happy about things. So I'm going to ask, we've got a safeguarding policy as well. And I'm going to ask our 3 safeguarding officers to please make themselves, don't disappear, Judy. I can see you're about to step out. So we've got 3 people who will be, if you have anything that you are uncomfortable with, that's Judy Amoke there in the back. Judy, thank you. There's Clara Helgeson. That's Clara in the back there as well. And then we've got, and I think Elaine might not be in the room, Elaine Neuenfeld. There is Elaine. Thank you, Elaine. So if anybody's feeling uncomfortable, you can speak to any one of those people, or on the document you will see that there's an email address you can use as well. I've spoken for far too long. We have a wonderful panel of opening provocateurs. And before we go to that, I'll invite them up on the stage in a bit. But now we're going to see whether technology works. And I'm going to ask that we show a video, a welcome video, a short one, from some of the other co-hosts. It's not just me who's welcoming you. We can show the video, gentlemen.
The convention is one commitment that Faith to Action Network made many, many years ago, that it will be providing an opportunity for the faith community to be able to share and to learn from each other in the areas of health, in the areas of women's rights and gender justice, in the areas of peaceful, just and inclusive communities.
We hope that this convention gives you the space to explore your own practice and to deal with the issues that so bedevil this world of ours.
United in our mission that echoes the theme of today's event, Faith Changemakers, affirming human dignity, justice and freedom for all. We envision a world guided by curiosity, understanding and love in human interaction.
We are striving to make sure that all people from Faith Networks, they are involved. There is no one from Faith Network who is left behind in making sure that the voice and the actualization in terms of ending HIV by 2030 is actualized.
We seek to unpack and unveil what we have been doing in our communities in partnership and also collaborating with other faith religions.
We encourage you to be brave, to be critical, to be honest about our own complicity in maintaining some of the problems that this world experiences.
I hope that this meeting would be successful and that all the faith-based organizations will carry this message strongly and as widely as possible so that more people would acknowledge that religious communities can play a big role in promoting values.
And I would like to welcome you to the Faith Changemaker Convention, affirming human dignity, justice, and freedom for all.
I would like to welcome all of you to the Changemakers Convention, affirming human dignity, justice, and freedom for all.
Welcome to South Africa, to Johannesburg, the city of gold.
Let's engage, inspire, and unite in this journey.
Welcome to the 2023 Inter-Religious Convention.
The person who compiled that video is very good. Even Peter was looking good there. So I'm going to hand over now, but before that I'm going to invite our esteemed panel to come up. Pakang Nakedi, Peter John Pearson, and our moderator, Celine, who's going to take over because my work here is done. We would have had Dr. Imtiaz Suleiman here as well, who is the founder of Gift of the Givers, and you will hear more about it. He's kindly sent us a video recording of what he would have said to us. Please come forward, don't wait for me, and grab a seat. Thank you for your attention, and now let's listen to these wonderful, wonderful interlocutors. Celine?
morning. It's my utmost honor and the privilege to be able to moderate this session. Though I would have liked to invite you in a more glamorous way, he just told you come. Yet I wanted to introduce you properly, so you are going to help me so we can redo it. Please go back. Go back to your seats. Yes, we must honor those who have given their time and energy and everything. So I will invite you again. Thank you for being obedient. So I will start by giving you a little bit of, talking to you a little bit of who the people are. I will start with Bakang Nakedi. Bakang Nakedi, please, she is 28 years old. This means a lot to this forum. This means there is inclusion with the youth. And that, as a matter of fact, I must mention this, that we had a pre-youth conference yesterday, which obviously you'll hear about it as we continue. But having a young person in this convention at this time of the opening ceremony means a lot. So Bakang is 28 years old. Are you still hearing me well? No? Okay, are you still hearing? Oh, okay, this is better. Bakang is 28 years old. You should clap for that. She is a member of the Baha'i community and a physiotherapist and practice owner of Nakedi's Physiotherapy. She resides and works in Swane. She believes that work is worship and that the betterment of the world can be accomplished through pure and goodly deeds, through commendable and seemly conduct. Bakang serves on several Baha'i institutions and is currently an auxiliary board member. It starts at a very young age, a board member whose purpose is to guide and collaborate with other institutions and encourage individuals and communities to teach and serve their communities. She's also the secretary for the Regional Institute Board, serving KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng, and Mpumalanga. In her role as secretary, she thrives to enhance the efficiency and impact of Baha'i educational endeavors in the region. She loves to work with children and youth as they are filled with germs of inestimable value and are in the future. She wishes to continue her life serving the Baha'i faith and community. Welcome, Bakang Nakedi. Please welcome her. Our next speaker is Father Peter John Pearson. I've heard a lot of good things about him. Father is a priest of the Archdiocese of Cape Town. He has served the Archdiocese and the Southern Africa Catholic Bishops' Conference in various leadership roles. He's director of the SACBC Parliamentary Liaison Office, the office that officially engages Parliament and the policy and the legislative processes on behalf of the Church. He serves on several boards and is at present also the chairperson of the Day of Courageous Conversation process that provides a space for discussions with various stakeholders in the mining sector. He is also deeply engaged in issues relating to displaced people and international affairs. Please help me welcome Father Peter John Pearson. We also had another guest. Unfortunately, he has not been able to come, but we have a video. He has sent a video because of health issues. He has not been able to come, but you will allow me to tell you who it is at the appropriate time when we are going to play the video. For now, I would like to invite Bakang Nakedi to give us her opening remarks.
Greetings to everyone. Alawapa. This is a Baha'i greeting that really says God is the all-glorious. I'm so joyful to be in this space. This is my first time attending one of these spaces, and it's wonderful to be in a space with like-minded people. And I'm grateful to be afforded the opportunity to address an esteemed audience. So as was mentioned, my name is Bakang Nakedi, I'm 28 years old, and I grew up knowing that my purpose in life is to serve humanity. I'm a Baha'i, and briefly, the Baha'i faith teaches us that humanity is one, that there is one God, who we call by different names, but is one creator of the heavens and earth, and that all divine religions come from this same God. So in essence, all of us sitting in this room are one. It's a strange idea to think that all of us coming from different religious, racial, socio-economical, and other backgrounds are one. But when one understands the essence of reality, it is not so strange. Consider the sun, how it shines resplendent on everyone, not discriminating on who to shine on, just shining on everyone. Some of us avoid the sun by sitting under the shade, staying in our houses because we cannot take the heat or the light. Some of us bask in the sun and embrace its heat fully. But despite our readiness to receive its warmth and light, it still shines on everything. It still nourishes. It still gives light. We are as different flowers of one garden, receiving the same light. We all physically get light and heat from the same source. We all spiritually get light and heat from the same source. But sometimes the light can be obscured by the clouds. And that's when we fail to recognize God's oneness and the oneness of humanity and religion. What are these clouds? Physically, it's a visible mass of condensed vapor mixed with dust and air particles. And spiritually, it's our vain imaginings, our misinterpretations of the word of God, our impurities, our ego, the insistent self, the thirst for power, prejudice, superstition, fanaticism, and selfish desires. When we look at the history of humanity, from the beginning up to the present, we see that strife and war have prevailed. Wars that are religious, political, and racial have occurred. And these wars were and are a clear sign of human ignorance, misunderstanding, and lack of education. In religious wars, it is the lack of understanding the true purpose of religion and the thirst for power, the fear of change, and the fear of truth. War is a true contradiction to the essence of religion and is an abomination. The divine prophets have appeared to bring love and agreement to the world, to bring order and peace. The divine prophets are shepherds who came forth to gather and lead their flock, not to disperse them and cause confusion and harm. God does not contradict himself. We misunderstand and misinterpret his text. Can he teach us to love and to be kind, yet instruct us to fight and hate? Wars are not justifiable and are solely a consequence of human error and delusion. And there are other wars. The war of materialism. Daily we're fighting against the forces of materialism, this notion that man is material and that he has material needs which must be met. As if like an animal with no willpower, control, or discipline. But man is different from the animal. He was created with intellect and a soul. Man, in nature, is spiritual and material. But the force of materialism attacks the lower nature of man and disregards this higher nature of man, influencing man to act according to his baser desires. When a man's lower nature is dominant, he lies, he cheats, he steals, he fights, he is violent, and causes harm to others. But when his higher nature is dominant, he manifests the virtues of God, he leads, he seeks truth and justice, he leads a righteous life and teaches others. But for man to make this higher nature dominant, he needs to be educated. Baha'u'llah, the messenger of God for today who brought the Baha'i faith to the world, says, "Regard man as a mine rich in gems of inestimable value. Education can alone cause it to reveal its treasures and enable mankind to benefit therefrom. Without education, a human being cannot reach its treasures. One is limited in their function and does not reach their full potential. And in turn, humanity cannot benefit fully from that human being. Religion is a balm to the wounds in the world. It is present to heal and cure, alongside science, with logic and reason. If we truly investigate the truth, we will find that the truth is one. When the sun rises, no matter from which point it rises, east, northeast, or southeast, we have clear vision of its glory. It is the sun from which we all receive its bounty. The religions of God teach us that man was created in the image and likeness of God. God is fair, God is just, He loves, He forgives, He empowers, He trusts, He has faith in our capacity, He is kind, and He reveals the truth. So if we're all created in the image and likeness of God, this is how we must all be, and we must rise to our nobility. With our nobility, we have a true purpose on earth. Baha'u'llah teaches that we have been created to carry forward an ever-advancing civilization, that the purpose for which mortal men have been created from utter nothingness is that we may work for the betterment of the world and live together in concord and harmony. This means action and effort, sacrifice and love. Let your heart burn with loving kindness for all who may cross your path. To achieve harmony and concord means first recognizing our unity. It is from the point of unity and love that diverse views and people can come together. It is from understanding that we are all cells in one human body, that we're able to specialize in our function and to work towards the common goal of sustaining this body and keeping it alive. The Baha'i community recognizes that just as the human body gets ill from disease and breakdown, its immune system fights the disease and repairs to overcome it. Likewise, the world undergoes processes of disintegration, such as corruption, wars, gender-based violence, lack of education, increasing gap between the poor and the rich, and that needs processes of integration, such as education, community building activities, and unity to win. Baha'is attempt to practice Baha'u'llah's teachings in their daily lives. Since education is the key that unlocks the treasures of mankind, education is highly regarded and is the main service that Baha'is offer. From as early as 5 years old to as old as one is willing to engage, there are educational programs that have been created to address the spiritual needs of all age groups. These programs aim to unearth and release the capacities of individuals to serve their communities and to contribute to social change and transformation. Social change and transformation is a process, and that is acknowledged. That to achieve social change and transformation, people need to be touched and influenced by the Word of God, and that many bad habits, prejudices, and behaviors need to be unlearned, such as backbiting and gossiping, the inequality of men and women. And new habits and behaviors need to be adopted, such as telling the truth. That backward culture that is not in line with the revelation of Baha'u'llah must slowly be discarded. But it is a process of educating and raising consciousness, of learning, of awakening the desires of the soul, and empowering people to see themselves as protagonists of their own development and social change. These educational programs that are offered by the Baha'i community are inspired by the holy writings and take place in groups, appreciating that the individual is part of a community, that an individual progresses while contributing to the progress of the community, and that the progress of the community advances the progress of an individual. The classes for children between the ages of 5 to 11, the junior youth groups for children between the ages of 12 to 15, and for youth and adults with no age restriction. All age groups and populations have spiritual needs that must be met, and all have the capacity to learn and change through the Word of God. From a young age, one is taught to serve humanity, and these programs are for people of all backgrounds and faiths. The purpose is to build a better community and to awaken spiritual susceptibilities formal education fails to do. The junior youth groups enable children from a young age to serve their community through service projects. This group is often led or facilitated by an older youth, almost like a mentor or an older brother or a sister or a friend to that young youth. This older youth serves as a safe space and guides the junior youth through life. And their focus is understanding spiritual concepts that enable them to make good decisions in life and live a life of service to humanity. These older youth in turn learn and grow and remain steadfast in being an example to the younger ones, changing the world one person at a time, one group at a time, one community at a time. The study circles, which are groups of study that youth and adults participate in, attempt to explore fundamental questions about life. They're open to different ages and serve as a space for intergenerational engagement, with the only agenda being to learn about how God wishes us to live, the purpose of our lives, and how to serve humanity. Currently, the tool being used in this process is the Ruhi Institute courses. All who engage in this program are encouraged to contribute back to their community by either holding spaces where friends can come together to pray, or by teaching the children between the ages of 5 to 11, or by being an animator to the junior youth, or by becoming a tutor of the youth and adult study circles. This process enables anyone who goes through it to serve, no matter their socio-economic circumstances or racial and religious backgrounds. Here's a story of many of the one story of many, of the impact of the Ruhi Institute and community building activities. In the western region in Kenya, a woman desired to be a teacher. But in her village, girls were not sent to school because people did not see the importance of girls being educated. But her father put her in school briefly, and she was very happy. But when she was a teenager, her father took her out of school and said she had enough education because she was a girl. She was sad because she had to give up her dream of becoming a teacher. At the age of 17, she got married and moved to a new village. In this village, she met a Baha'i community and joined the institute process, which awakened within her the desire to become a teacher. Soon after, she became a teacher of a children's class and later an animator of junior youth groups. She noticed after some time that majority of the children in the community were not attending school because the school was inaccessible, a 4-hour walk away. So together with the Baha'i community, they began having conversations with families in the village, and they decided together to build a community school, and she became the teacher. But the school was only for 5 and 6-year-olds, and there were no resources for higher grades. After reflecting with the community, she initiated conversations with the government. They persuaded the government to build primary schools in their village, and they did. The children were able to go to school and walk easily to school. Some of the children even have graduated from university. This is an inspiring story of many and shows the impact of the Ruhi Institute, but also the long process of community building. Abdul Baha, the son of Baha'u'llah, who Baha'is look towards as the perfect example, says, "To accept and observe a distinction which God has not intended in creation is ignorance and superstition. There must be no difference in the education between man and woman. Until the reality of equality between man and woman is fully established and attained, the highest social development of mankind is not possible. The only remedy is education, opportunity, for equality means equal qualification. And we know that when a woman is educated, a whole nation is educated, because a woman is the first educator of a child." At the forefront of these activities that I've just mentioned are youth, as the period of youth is the choicest time in a human's life. It is the time when one has the most energy, when one is critically thinking about working towards their future, choosing to marry and have a family or not. It is youth who are change makers, youth who are in a mode of learning and changing, youth who are flexible, youth who are the gap between the children and the adults. And through directing their talents and abilities to the elevation of society, they become the cause of tranquility to the world of creation. Baha'is are guided by institutions made up of individuals from the age of 21. These institutions are voted for by the members of the Baha'i community in a sacred process free of canvassing and campaigning, and that only guided by those close relationships with the community, experiencing the real characters of individuals through service, one can make an informed decision of who to vote for. These institutions guide the community's efforts to ensure it is in line with the divine plan, and it is the strength of the relationship between the individual, the institutions, and the community that unity is maintained. This order created in the faith was created by Baha'u'llah himself, and was his plan to maintain unity and ensure progress, and to include youth in processes of decision-making. While Baha'is have learned a lot from the processes they are undertaking, they recognize that much more still needs to be learned, and more collaboration with other partners is needed. The unity of mankind cannot be achieved by a single people. The more qualities of cooperation and mutual assistance are manifested by people, the more the human society will progress in prosperity. And it's spaces like these that provides the opportunity for us to learn from each other. Spaces like these that raises consciousness about the human soul, the interconnectedness of people and faiths. It is through a humble posture of learning that we advance, and through consistent action, consultation, and reflection on action that we can make leaps. And most of all, it is through adherence to the guidance of the holy text of God that make us succeed. Yesterday, a pre-youth conference was held for this convention, where youth from different countries, religions, and organizations, faith change makers, gathered in a safe space to talk about the contribution of youth and to share the current work we are all engaged in regarding social change. And the youth wished for me to convey to the convention recommendations from us to the religious leaders in this convention. But first, we would like to appreciate the impact religious leaders have made on the progress of communities, as they are a guide that aims to lead the communities closer towards its creator. This is a magnificent job. The youth would also like to appreciate the efforts made by religious leaders to be more inclusive of youth, and the youth would like to humbly make further recommendations. Where youth are not recognized, religious leaders, please acknowledge that youth are drivers of change and that collaboration with youth will ensure progress. For religious leaders to create spaces for youth to engage in meaningful discussions where their challenges in life can be explored without judgment. For deliberate action to be made to bring youth, inclusive of all genders, to the decision-making table, and to remove barriers from youth being more involved. To see youth as stakeholders and protagonists of change. And lastly, to deliberately promote gender equality and address sexual reproductive health right issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bakang. Thank you. Because of time, I will then call upon Father Peter John Pearson for his remarks as well.
I must say, I nearly had a heart attack when the wonderful MC started giving ages out. I have consistently, for years, lied about my age. Every birthday, I subtract 3 years. So I'm in my teens at the moment, you will understand. And then it suddenly struck me that the organizers had a copy of my ID. And the real date of birth was there. And so I froze for a moment. I just thought, this is the day I'm going to be outed age-wise. Luckily, for all of us, she refrained. And so, I greet you. Like everyone else, I think, over the last few days, weeks, we have reeled from the horror of the wars around us. intensified and I suppose magnified by that terrible war that's going on in Gaza. Even though I know and you know that there are probably 47 other places in the world where wars are happening, where violence destroys the cohesion of communities, where people are robbed of possibility because of war. But Gaza for me is the one. It's a place, it's a strip of land I know very well, whose streets I walk often and whose bakeries I visit in the early morning to buy bread and pitas. I'm also aware that in the horrible onslaught of that war and of every other war, a generation is being brutalized, and that will play off in the years to come and in the generations to come. And it's something our generation is going to have to take responsibility for. Over and over as I've watched this, over and over as I have thought of people whom I know and love in Gaza, and the same is true of people in the Sudan, in Yemen, in all the other countries, I have heard again and I've been haunted by the incredible words of Edmund Burke, the historian who, when writing of the French Revolution, said, and it could well be said of us, it has a resonance with us. He said, events have happened of which it is difficult to speak and impossible to be silent. Let me make the point very clearly that the most basic rule of advocacy, which is what I was asked to reflect on this morning, is the recovery, the reclamation of our collective voices so that we might speak boldly. It's the reclamation of our collective voices. It's the reclamation of expanding our worldview. It's the reclamation of enhancing and deepening our imagination so that we can begin to dream and move into action about something new. That's the heart of advocacy, and that's the heart of where we are called to place ourselves. Gramsci says, in a time of universal deceit, truth-telling is a revolutionary act. More and more, I'm convinced that advocacy which does not serve truth-telling, advocacy which does not break the multiple silences that impede us and hinder us and denigrate us, is not, and that doesn't make its contribution to multiple revolutions. That kind of advocacy is both immoral and insincere. The challenge to break the silence for the faith community so that it is in itself open to the dangerous memories that are embedded in all our histories, that are part of all of our roots, so that those dangerous memories can emerge to help us challenge the constraints of our time, must also be about breaking the silence of our own deeply held cultural taboos, our own religious constructs, our own discriminatory faith practices. We will not be able to access the dangerous memories that can energize us into something new without also calling out our own biases. I've also thought often in these past days of the author Ursula Le Guin's work. She says very tellingly and very introspectively, she says, I forgot what she says and I can't find it. This is what... Now I remember what she says, and I have found it. She says, you cannot buy the revolution. You cannot make the revolution. You can only be the revolution. It is in your spirit, or it is nowhere. And people like ourselves, who are deeply rooted in the reality of faith, need to carry that instinct in our hearts for any recovery of our collective progressive voices to challenge the boundaries and the barricades of imposed, even if they are self-imposed, restrictions must be carried first in the heart and then spoken robustly. Advocacy has no right to either be safe or silent. I recall the words of the African-American author Alice Walker. No one is your friend who demands your silence or denies your right to grow. So I make the point that advocacy that is silent, that doesn't give voice to the cries of the brutalized, that thwarts the right to grow, that dooms children to do their arithmetic in terms of counting dead bodies, or their physical training measured by how quickly they can sprint away from falling bombs or crumbling rubble that was once their home, their kindergarten, or their clinic. We do so equally against the scourge of gender-based violence and immeasurable poverty and shattered dreams in many of our own countries, certainly in this country. There is something grotesque and evil about it. The Holocaust survivor, Elie Wiesel, put the moral obligation to do something about brutality against others in very memorable words. He said, there may be times when we are powerless to prevent injustice, but there must never be a time when we fail to protest. We must take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. Advocacy that ends in silence or that is neutral on the great issues of our time that define our hour will never stand the litmus test if it is born of faith. But advocacy, friends, colleagues, fellow advocates, I don't mean that in the legal sense. I mean in the pushing boundary sense, in the uncomfortable sense that most are to our colleagues and our friends. Doesn't only break silence, it builds solidarity. Not solidarity only in the way of networking or knowledge transfer, although of course that is valuable. Oliver Wendell Holmes once said that many ideas grow better when transplanted into another mind than the one they sprang up in. There is also a deeper advocacy of solidarity. Solidarity which comes from allowing those voices, those presences that are erased to take their place and add their voices. Voices that have been erased, brought to the forefront. That's solidarity in advocacy. It's not merely the transfer of knowledge, it's the inclusion of voices that have been erased over time, so that the product we do advocacy for is richer for the presence of those excluded voices. It takes me to my favorite poem of one of my favorite poets in all the world, Bertolt Brecht. Bertolt Brecht, in that magnificent poem, A Worker Reads History, poses the powerful question about the wonderful figures in history, all the monuments that commemorate the powerful, all the cities that have been rebuilt, all the buildings that have been designed, and asks, but who did the building and where did they sleep? The great could only make history, build palaces, lay out cities, because there were others who were in it for the long haul, exploited and forgotten. And the stories of those cities and those buildings and those monuments cannot honestly and truthfully be told unless the voices of those who've been included are included. Remember those words. Each discovery, each advance, each increase in the sum of human riches owes its being to the physical and mental travail of the past and the present. By what right then can whatever appropriate, by what right then can anyone appropriate the least morsel of this immense whole and say, this is mine, not yours? This place, this time, our being together, our rethinking the boundaries and our contestation of the limits of advocacy and our call to have a new imagination so that we can push the process of advocacy into spaces that are life-giving and progressive and wholesome and new, that are inclusive, that tell the truth, that open up the potential for the future. Those places also must continue to challenge us, continue to ensure that the struggles of our time are not dominated by self-serving narratives of the powerful, who bid us believe that injustice, war, land theft, demonizing those we seek to wipe out of history are inevitable stages of history, even if regrettable. They are not. I leave you with the thought of the Soviet physicist, writer, political analyst, Peter Kropotkin. He says, do not blame humanity if of your own accord you thus paralyze your energies. Be strong, on the other hand, and once you have seen unrighteousness and recognized it as such, once you have seen inequality in life, a lie in science, or suffering inflicted on another, rise in revolt against the iniquity, the lie, or the injustice. Struggle. To struggle is to live, and the fiercer the struggle, the intenser the life. And then you will have lived, and a few hours of such life are worth years spent vegetating. For that good reason, as Sloane Coffin said, the heart is a little to the left. May we find our heart, and may we do our advocacy well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Father. We must agree that you have energized us with a lot of passion, a lot of force, intention to be here with intentionally and really, challenging us to basically break the norms and figure out how we can really be the answers of the humanity challenges. How can we contribute? I thank you very much, Father, and also to Bakang. With Bakang, we saw the youthfulness in her and the ideals of where we also our eyes are seeing going to the future with the hopes. And Father brought us back to reality of the things that we must, deal with, and also some of the lethargy that we have as adults, and also because we are dealing with realities and how we must always go back to our calling and how relevant we are. So obviously, this is just to put us into the mood of the next 3 days. It doesn't mean that all that has to be said and talked about is only compounded here, but it's in the entire room. And because of that, having acknowledged their contribution to our thinking and our, sharing, I would like to ask in the room, 1, 2, or 3 people, briefly, not to ask a question, but to also comment something that can. Yes, I will come back to that. Yeah, so that we can have 1 or 2 or 3 people. I'm giving you time to think about it, so that we can basically also say something that will, coming to in the same vein as this. So, but before that, this is homework in between. Before that, a clever way of saying that I had forgotten that we had a third speaker, So the third speaker, who is not here, but who has sent a video, is Dr. Imtiaz Ismail Suleiman. He was born here in South Africa, in Northwest Province, on the 7th of March 1962. He attended Sastry College in Durban and went to study medicine at the University of KwaZulu-Natal Medical School, qualifying as a medical doctor. Dr. Suleiman commenced private practice in 1986, but chose to close his flourishing practice in mid-1994, choosing instead to focus his attention on Gift of the Givers Foundation. I've been told he is an amazing humanitarian, which he founded in early 1992. His establishment of Gift of Givers Foundation was the consequence of a message that Dr. Suleiman, then aged 30, received from Sufi Sheikh Mohammed Safer Effendi Al-Jerahi, his spiritual leader in Istanbul, Turkey, who called on him to serve all people of all races, of all religions, of all colors, of all classes, and of all political affiliations, and of any geographical location. A calling he honored then and continues to honor today. His endeavor in this regard has seen Gift of the Givers Foundation emerge as one of the most respected humanitarian organizations in the world, and is today the largest disaster response agency of African origin anywhere on the continent. Since 1992, Dr. Suleiman has steered the organization to many notable achievements and world firsts, including implementing 21 different categories of projects, delivering well in excess of around 5 billion rand of aid, coming to the assistance of millions of people in no fewer than 45 countries across the globe, inclusive of South Africa, designing and developing in 1993 the world's first and only containerized mobile hospital of its kind, which was deployed in Bosnia and has been compared by CNN to any of the best hospitals in Europe, designing the world's first containerized primary healthcare unit in 1994. Unfortunately, despite having accepted to be here with us, he was not well. But we have a video which he has sent, and we can listen to him. After that, we'll come back to 1 or 2 among us. Thank you. Sorry?
Thank you very much for that introduction, and a very good morning to everyone at the Interfaith Alliance. Unfortunately, I could not be there in person. I undergone a medical surgical procedure which prevented me from travel. I'm not really ill, but I'm just uncomfortable because of the nature of the procedure. I wish you all the best in the conference. And at a time like this, when the world is really polarized and there's so much on conflict and disorder, it couldn't have come at a better time. Eli referred to my spiritual teacher. I met him for the first time in August '91. My wife was with me, and we landed up in Turkey. At that time, the world was polarized also. It was post-Gulf War, and the Gulf War created the impression that Christians, Jews, and Hindus were on one side, Muslims on the other side, East on one side, West on the other side. And coming from an apartheid past really didn't help. And when we walked in, it was the beginning of a massive transformation. In that place, the spiritual place, a Sufi place, a place of spirituality, of love, of compassion and kindness, we walked into people from all nationalities, all countries, all religions, and no religion. There were Americans, Russians, people from all parts of Europe, Sweden, Norway, Finland, Germany, Canada, people from Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, parts of Southeast Asia, Africa. That was the first shock. The second thing, there were Jews, Christians, Hindus, Muslims, people from other religion, and people from no religion. That was the second shock. How is this possible post-Gulf War, when Samuel Huntington spoke of the clash of civilizations? The biggest shock was there was no friction, no fighting, no disorder, only respect across the people. And then I realized there's something very different about the makeup and nature of people. The teacher saw the shock in my face and he said, "What do you see?" I said, "I'm totally confused. How is this possible? From different nationalities, different religions and no religion in a Muslim holy place. And we've had wars with these communities all over the world. How come they're here?" And he looked at me and he said, "My son, mankind is one single nation. The God of all mankind is one. We just call him by different names. The bad behavior of an individual or a group of people is not indicative of an entire religion, an entire community, an entire nation, and an entire country." He said the essence of religion is love, kindness, compassion, and mercy. We don't look at people negatively. We look at the positive, even in the person that seems to have bad, and we emphasize the positive. And when we do that, the universe listens, and the positive goes up, and the negative goes down. I looked at that, and my whole mind was transformed, not to judge any person by race, color, or religion. The following year, 6th August, I was back there, 92. An instruction was given to me after what is a zikr. A zikr is a celebration of God's names in Arabic. And he looked at me in the eye, and he looked heavenwards. In fluent Turkish, and I don't speak a word of Turkish, but I understood every single word that he said that night in Turkish. He said, "My son, I'm not asking you. I'm instructing you to form an organization. The name in Arabic will be Waqful Waqifin, translated, gift of the givers. You will serve all people of all races, all religions, all colors, all classes, all cultures, of any political affiliation and of any geographical affiliation, but you will, any geographical location, sorry, but you will serve them unconditionally without expecting anything in return, not even a thank you. This is an instruction for you for the rest of your life." I was 30 years old. Serve people with love, kindness, and compassion. And remember, the dignity of man is foremost. So if someone is down in the ground, don't push them down further. Hold them, elevate them. Wipe the tear of a grieving child. Caress the head of an orphan. Say words of good counsel to a widow. These things are free. They don't cost anything. Clothe the naked, feed the hungry, provide water to the thirsty. And in everything that you do, be the best at what you do. Not because of ego. Ego is destructive. But because you're dealing with human life, human emotion, human suffering, and human dignity. He went on to say, "My son, remember that whatever you do is done through you and not by you. There is no place for ego." I asked him, "How come when you speak in Turkish, I understand, and other people speak Turkish, I don't understand?" He said, "My son, when the hearts connect and the souls connect, the words become understandable." I asked him, "What exactly am I supposed to do? I'm a doctor. I have 3 practices in a place called Pietermaritzburg in South Africa. What do I do and when do I do this?" He looked me in the eye and told me one line: "You will know." For 31 years, I know exactly what to do, what not to do, what to touch, what not to touch. It's too beyond, it's too big, it's way beyond the length of this discussion to go into the details. But I just want to give 1 or 2 examples of how when interfaith we work together. In 2005, 8 October, a massive earthquake hits Pakistan. I sent in 5 different teams. The 5th team is a Christian lady, Karina Extian, a specialist physiotherapist in spinal rehab from Pretoria University. She tells me she likes to go. I said, "When?" She says, "Christmas." I said, "Are you feeling well?" She says, "What do you mean?" I said, "Your holy time You want to be in a Muslim country to go and serve there? Shouldn't you be spending time with your family? She says, it's the only time I have free. She goes to Pakistan. She makes people walk. In a Muslim country, a Christian lady comes, walks to the hospital, makes people walk. When she leaves, the patients, the doctors, the staff, the military, the community all cry of the service this lady has given her. No faith, no religion, no color, just humanity. She brings one child home to live in her house so she could rehabilitate that child in Pretoria. The second incident was 2010, 12 January, the earthquake in Haiti. We respond. We know we're going to have a problem. There's fighting in the streets, there's looting. We have no base in Haiti. We don't know anyone. We know there's Catholics and there's Anglicans, and there they call it Episcopal, a different name. I sent a message to the Catholic Society in Johannesburg. I said, I need the Pope. The guy was stunned for 10 seconds. He couldn't speak. What does Muslim guy need the Pope for? I said, we Muslims, we connected all over the world. Are you Christians not connected all over the world? He said, what do you need the Pope for? I said, I need a Catholic society to meet my teams in Dominican Republic and take them across into Port-au-Prince in Haiti. 3 hours later, the message comes, it's arranged. Catholic Relief Services and Caritas will meet the South African team in Dominican Republic, and so it goes. My teams land in France. We're flying them from Joburg to Paris, and we knew it's not going to work to fly to Port-au-Prince. The airport will close. And as they landed, the airport closed. I tell them, this is the number. They're waiting for you in Dominican Republic. They get there, the boards are up. South African team, food, accommodation, water, medical support, visas, we're going across together. We stayed with the Catholic Relief Services and Caritas, and of course our teams are not Muslim, they're completely mixed. And we stayed in their compound. We were the only team with the Mexicans, Spanish team, who speak the same language, that worked more than 8 hours a day because we were not restricted by the UN. We worked with Caritas. 20th January 2010, 8 days into the earthquake, my teams hear sounds in the rubble of the collapsed Catholic Church. As they go in, 3 hours later, they pull out alive. 8 days into the earthquake, they pull out alive 64-year-old Enazizi. No oxygen, no food, no water, fractured hip, completely covered by rubble. She comes out. Her first words, I love God Almighty. Faith and spirituality is a source of positivity and hope, not only in the case of Enazizi, but in the case of 6 billion people all over the world. The world seriously needs faith and spirituality. We need to move away from materialism, from man-made egos, man-made desires, and all man-made ideas. We need to go back to religion, to God, and to faith. And the second words were, I love you, because faith that saved her, that brought a team to her, the essence of that is love. To transform the world, we need to transform ourselves first. To appreciate each other, that religion is not a source of conflict. It's a source of diversity that makes people work together, stand together, because the God is the same. I think one final message. The person who told me about a spiritual teacher in Turkey is an Afrikaner Christian from Pretoria. He said he was in America. He was walking through the streets in 1985 in America, and he was down, broken, loss of faith, didn't know what to do with himself. And he saw somebody in the corner of his eye look at him in New York. He doesn't know who the man was, but his heart told him, follow the man. He followed the man to St. John the Divine, a huge church in New York. When he walked in, he got a shock. The man was a Muslim, a Turk, a Sufi master. In the church, there were people from all religion, same like what I saw in Turkey. And suddenly the man performs a zikr in the church. A Muslim guy performs a zikr in a Christian church. And people from all faiths and no faith join him in the zikr. What does that tell you about the Christian elders of the church? You see, we've been told that religion divides people, that religion causes conflict. The world's got it wrong. People who move away from religion cause conflict, not people who follow religion. And those church leaders stood out and said, you're most welcome to do what you want to do, because we're not afraid. It all leads to the same path. We are all one. We come from the same God. We need to go back to that. This is my message to the people of the Interfaith Group. We are all one people, one nation, one God. We are the people that can heal the world. And the only way to do that is to bring people back to faith and to spirituality. I wish you all the best in the rest of your conference. Once again, I apologize for not being able to be there in person. I would have loved to have met all of you, but we are brothers in essence and sisters. Thank you very much, and may God bless all of us.
That was totally outstanding. Very, very good. Thank you. Because of time now, we can't go back to that. However, I want to announce a few things before we can go to a break. We have this conference main plenary room. As we start now going into different tracks, this one will be holding all work related to gender. Any work on the program that is gender will be held in this room every day. So the track around peace will be in the Cape Town room over here. When you go outside, there are screens. They will show you Cape Town room, and everything related to peace tracks will be there. For the Forbes Freedom of Religions and Beliefs track will be in the other auditorium. It's called International Auditorium, and this one is called Domestic Conference. So this other one on the other side is called International Conference Center. I mean, inside, that's where all activities related to Forbes track will be held every day. So there is no confusion. If you want to follow anything related to Forbes in the program, activities are on the other side. Just across, if you want to follow around the gender, is this plenary room. About peace is inside over there. It's called Cape Town room. Something else that I wanted to let you know, so that there is no confusion at this particular time, we will be having every day our lunch and breakfast in the Clover's Green Room, where we had breakfast this morning. That's where also we'll be having lunch for all the days remaining. Breakfast, lunch, Clover's Green Room. I also wanted to ask you that you can, as we go out for a break, that we can go to the main entrance where there are stairs, so we can have a photo group. Another item not to be forgotten, I know that not everyone wants to be, visible on pictures, on media. Someone can come for you for interviews and all that. In the event, you do not appear on any pictures, or you would not want to be available for interviews, for the videos as we gather them. There will be a sticker at the registration room. It's a white sticker that you'll be putting anywhere that's visible on your clothes, so that we can see either on your chest here or somewhere else visible. As the media team is working on that, they will then know that you don't want pictures and you don't want to have any interviews. I think that is also very good. Last but not least, someone among us called Atman in room 5012 left their key room. If you know them or they can identify themselves, let them know that I have their room key, and then they can come to me. Oh, thank you. Yes, and also in the events you have your notebooks and your bags. Please, as you see, they resemble each other. please make sure you can carry it very well so that you don't lose your bags and your notebooks. Be carrying them, not to leave them, because they all look alike, so someone can carry someone else's bag. So please be careful with that. Thank you very much. Once again, let's thank very much our speakers as they go back to their seats. Thank you.